Okay, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. Before I hand it over to our presenter today, I'd like to go over just a few housekeeping procedures. Today is going to be very much a discussion. However, when you're not speaking, if you can remain on mute so there isn't any background noise while other people are speaking, that would be wonderful. The video is completely optional, but sometimes it is nice to see a face with the voice, but that's completely up to you. There is a button at the bottom of your screen that I'd like you all to avoid hitting. It's a rectangle with an up arrow. It's your share screen button. Please do not click that, as that will interrupt Nick's presentation. If and when you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and jump in. Or you can use the chat feature and raise hand feature, and I will prompt Nick when appropriate. If you have any technical issues, please put those into the chat, and I will do my best to help you through those. Just be aware that most of the issues stem from your own Wi-Fi connection. If anyone has dialed in via telephone today, please send me an email at mfrey@pgahq.com, and we'll make sure you get your PDR credit for this morning. And finally, we are recording the session, so if you need to refer back to it or would like to share it with some of your colleagues who weren't able to join today, it will be available on our YouTube channel later this week. With that, I'd like to introduce the PGA Director of Instruction at Radley Run Country Club, Mr. Nick Bionde. Take it away, Nick.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Matt. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone for jumping on here. This is pretty cool for me. I guess I'm the young guy in the room right now, 29 years old. So just kind of a lifetime in golf. I think I just want to explain my story a little bit. Grew up at Glenmar National Golf Club in the Scranton area, learned under a great head pro, Cleve Coldwater, another great head pro, Terry Hurst at the Country Club of Scranton. My grandpa helped to found the club up there at Glenmar. So spent basically my entire summer, winter, every day there. My grandfather had perfect attendance at the club. Got into teaching probably 5 years ago. As I saw professional golf kind of wasn't going my way. So dove in and learned under a lot of great teachers, coaches, mentors. I'm just going to kind of share my story, what I do, how I run my programs. And this is kind of based towards associates in the organization, which I think is cool. I'm still an associate, level 3 right now. So I think that it's important to help those associates and those younger instructors just learn how to do this thing. I had a lot of great mentors, as I'm going to share with you all today, but I think that there's going to be nothing original in here today, but there's going to be some pieces you all might find interesting. So I'll run us through this PowerPoint. If anyone has any questions at any point in time, please don't hesitate to unmute and dive in, because this is just open. It's like open forum, which is cool. Give me 1 second. I'll share this slides. Get this in the slideshow. Cool. Then can everyone just see what I'm showing there? Is that okay?
Yes.
Matt, you got me? Cool.
Yeah, you're good.
Yep. So I always start this with this quote, be yourself, everyone else is already taken. This is a big one for me. I think as a kid growing up, trying to play the game professionally, I tried to copy people. So I was trying to copy like Tiger Woods's cadence and rhythm. And then I was copying Brandt Snedeker and kind of his rhythm and that quick pop stroke. And now I sort of copy coaches. Like, it's interesting when I think about that. I'm pretty good at copying rhythms and cadences of how maybe a coach might deliver something. So that's why I think going to shadow coaches is a super, super important piece. I've done this a ton and throughout basically my career. Like, I'd sit there with Mike Adams for a few hours after he'd help me with a lesson, and I would basically just watch him do his thing and just pay attention. I think that's the biggest thing we can do as coaches to pass on. But I think be yourself. Find your own rhythm, find your own cadence. I'm a hybrid of probably a lot of different mentors and people. So just finding that rhythm and cadence is an important piece. But I think being yourself is a really good way to start this off. And we get into like the trifecta. So I don't know if this is original or not. It's probably not, but I call this the trifecta, the complete coaching approach. So I think it's very important to have 3 things, at least 2 of these 3 things in your repertoire. I think golf lessons is most important. How do you give a proper lesson? The mechanics of it, like the positions, how do you do that? The next point would be golf club fitting. I think that all great instructors have a decent idea on how to fit a golf club properly, from shaft flex to weight. Basically, I would imagine that many of us have gone to give a golf lesson and the golf clubs didn't fit the player at all. It makes it extremely hard to make that player do what we want to do. And then this is more for me, I think, but golf club repair, like knowing how to change loft and lie in real time if you have those capabilities at your club, I think that's a really, really important piece. At Radley Run there, I've got a little indoor performance studio where my build shop is probably 15 steps from where I teach. So just being able to like, oh, I see his lie angles are off. Let me go change his 7-iron just to get us to a baseline of where I know that he might need to go. And I find that to be super helpful. So that's really what I would call the trifecta. And I do it with actually my technology as well. So I will actually run my programming. So I have a camera, force plate, and then a TrackMan or a GC quad running. So I kind of run in threes. But I think that's really important to be able to do all three things. If you can't do all three, I think 2 of the 3 is sufficient, with golf lessons being most important, as most of us are teachers here in this room. So just a holistic way that I found works best for me. Let me change slide here. Sorry, guys. And then I think it's important to embrace tech. I know this is like a scary thing for some of us if we're older, younger. I think embracing technology is super important. So these are just some items that I use on my day-to-day. Blast Motion, Foresight Sports, Hack Motion, that other logo there is Sportsbox 3D, and then Science in Motion. A lot of motion moving. But I think it's just necessary to be a modern PGA coach. If you're not embracing it, if you don't have it, not a big deal. But I think if you don't have it, you just have to know how to use it when the time does come when you can get it. But these things make it very easy for me to pick things up naked eye that I don't know what's really happening, right? So I can tell a little bit where the pressure is in someone's feet, but the Science in Motion SAM Balance Lab really helps me to figure out where the ground is and how they're shifting the earth. And then the Hack Motion, I can tell the wrist is a little cupped, but how much is a little cupped? So I think it's important to really dive into like what you need to do to notice those things. A Foresight Sports, I can't see rate of closure with a golf club coming into impact. So we always want to measure. My next thing is going to be one thing that I did that I thought was super important early on in my career was find a mentor. So I've had great mentors. Bottom left-hand corner there is Michael Jacobs. He won the 2025 PGA Professional Development Award. Brought me up on stage with a group of our guys, and he basically said something that I'm not going to share with you guys, but it was pretty cool what he said. But I think it's important to find a great mentor. There's Butch Harmon in the top right corner. Everyone knows Butch. He's worked with a million of the best players in the world and still does. But finding a mentor, and I think the one thing that people don't really realize is mentorship doesn't have to be someone that's older than you. It can be someone at any age. I think that's something that I've got a couple mentors that are like 25, 26 friends that I went to high school with, that they're just better than me at certain things. So like one of my mentors is a guy by the name of Chris Sermonero. He's a finance guy down in Richmond, Virginia, close buddy of mine. I'm not great with math, so I bounce all my ideas off of him if I've got some type of math related question or finance related question. So mentorship can be someone of any age. Doesn't always have to be older. But you also want to build that relationship that allows for open communication and feedback. And I never have a problem like reaching out to someone, whether it's Andy Miller or John Bierkin or Mark Sheftick. I will most certainly reach out to these people and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, what are you doing in your programming? I think that's the beautiful part about our organization is you can reach out at any point in time to all of these amazing coaches in the Philadelphia, New Jersey, Met sections, and just reach out and touch base and see what they're doing. Check in with other people. Big names. So these are some of the people that I've spent time around. The 3 trophies are national award winners for Teacher of the Year, Teaching and Coaching. Dave Glens, Mike Adams, and Craig Shankland. Spent a fair amount of time with all of these gentlemen, all for different reasons. But everyone here I've really spent quite a bit of time with. This is basically for my own playing. So just trying as a player to get better. And I learned a ton along the way. And there's some names on there that most people can't get a hold of. Mac O'Grady, Jimmy Ballard, just guys that are sort of like spread out, but legends of golf instruction. people love the big name. So that's what I tried to do as a player. You'd see these names on the list on the boards, and you'd go, okay, well, who can I learn from? Who's close by? Learned a lot from Dave Tarashi. Learned a lot from Michael Little. Learned a lot from Scott Chisholm. A ton from Jacobs. A ton from Bovo. But I think it's important to go and seek out some people who have done things that maybe you haven't done yet in your own career. So I haven't accomplished half of what these people have accomplished. So if you don't agree with them, that's totally fine. Like I know some people hate Stack and Till. Some people don't agree with Mac. Some people don't like what Michael Jacobs teaches. But I think ultimately all of these people on this list have had success with what they've been doing. And I think the proof is in the pudding. So if there's success someplace, you can kind of go find the success. And you don't have to grab the whole thing. Don't have to bite the whole apple. But I think a little piece of it wouldn't hurt anyone. Just like with players, like there's a lot of different golf swings in the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of different ways and coaching styles in our Hall of Fame. So it's important to touch base with those big names. What is a big name, right? But I think it's an important piece. Continuous education is my next bit. I think this is super important. How do we continue learning? The first name that comes to mind to me in this forum is Chris Como. He does that open forum. He teaches the PGA Tour players. But I think the biggest thing with education and continuing to learn is that it never stops, right? Like when I get bored, I start learning more. Off seasons, like this really wasn't even an off season. I dove into like 6 other projects that I had no business taking on. But I think just continuing to learn. And I think the reason why the education is important and like I like Como so much is because he just puts the information out there. Like there's really not a lot of people with proprietary information. This is all sort of recycled over the last 100 years of golf instruction. But I think I really like Como just because he puts it out there. You're not going to teach like Chris Como. You're not going to teach like Nick Biondi. You're not going to teach like Mark Sheftick. I think it's just like the information's out there. Use it as you will. And I really love that. So just continuing to like stay updated with the latest tech, even though you don't have it, you want to know how to use it. But really you want to stay updated, attend the workshops, try and travel to the seminars and the events. I really love how our teaching and coaching and education committee, we've been putting up like where you can go for different educational seminars and events. I think that's super important. There's great online resources. There's great online certifications, but that's been a really big point for me is just to continue to learn. Like I said, young guy in the room, 29 years old. I have hopefully the rest of my life in this game. And we all love the game, as the PGA motto says, but I think it's just important to keep learning, keep growing, keep pushing forward. This is a big one for me. I have a great quote there. Someone asked me the other day, what is marketing? He was like, what even is marketing? And I basically said, marketing is the megaphone for word of mouth. I'll repeat that again. Marketing is the megaphone for word of mouth. So people at your club say you're really good. If you have a marketing director or you put stuff up on social media, that's your megaphone. That's how you reach a broader spectrum of people. I'm just going to point this out to everyone. I'd like to just reflect on your approach for a second. Are you modern, old school, or a mix? And it's okay to be all of them. I think I'm a mix of modern and old school. I don't really love just solely working on word of mouth because there is such a broad platform for social media. I'm sure many of you have seen me on our Philly PGA Instagram page or on my own Instagram page, but that's like really the modern coach has to be able to market themselves. You have to have a teaching philosophy. And I really have been thinking about this a ton over the last couple months, working with Rick Sessenhaus a little bit, Colin Morikawa's coach. And I came to the conclusion that like my first couple of years teaching, I was selling like the perfect swing. How do we make everyone look like Adam Scott? I don't really know if that's like possible for 99% of people. But I do know that I'm starting to just try and sell you a lower score. I think from a holistic standpoint, if I can get you hitting it a little bit better, thinking on the golf course a little bit better, putting a little bit better, that's going to have you shoot lower scores. And I think that's what we all want to do. And I don't think as coaches, we push that enough. We're pushing more like you're going to hit it really good, but hitting it really good also doesn't correlate to lower scores, which is difficult. And it's difficult to get a student to understand that, right? So we've got to really help them to form that idea in their brain of just because my golf swing is great doesn't mean that I'm going to shoot great scores, but I certainly can by by working on different things in my mental game and working on different things in my short game. So I'm selling lower scores. I'm no longer selling the perfect golf swing. And I think the marketing standpoint's important. And I think Facebook does a great job. So if you have a Facebook page, that's awesome. If you have an Instagram page, that's awesome as well. I'm on TikTok and Snapchat and all these different kind of forums, but I think it's just important to push to your students. So then your students can basically say, hey, this is my instructor. This is what he teaches, or here's some different ideas about him. Go and check it out. So you always want to have, and even YouTube as well. YouTube's a hot commodity right now, always will be. But I think just pushing your students to say, hey, this is where I can go to learn a little bit, even if I'm not in my lesson, it's a good marketing tool across the board. But I think really reflect on your approach. Modern, old school, or mix. Like I said, it's definitely okay to be all three. So then we get into technology. So I mentioned earlier how I like to basically use my trifecta of 3D force plates, launch monitors, and camera. I think that's super important. So assess, don't guess. The power of data-driven coaching is this slide. I really love this one because I think it's important to do this. Mike Adams pushed me into this, and then Michael Jacobs has been a real proponent of this for me. Is like I like to look at things in a bunch of different planes of motion. First thing I'm looking at when someone walks into my studio is I'm checking to see what their ankles look like not cankles, but as you walk in, how are you walking? Basically, are you walking heel to toe? Are you walking a little bit pigeon-toed, or are your toes toes flared out a little bit, just as your normal walking posture? So I think that's super important to be able to assess that. Like some people are predisposed to move in a certain way, and I think it's important that we understand that, and then we come up with a custom solution for all of our players. I've seen like rapid improvements. I keep basically notes on all players from like club face, path, angle of attack, distance with their 7-iron, distance with their driver, and club head speed when they walk into my room. And I always assess where we are basically every session. So I do a little bit of a data test. And then I also like to test their body a little bit. So this is from Kinetisense, this lower left-hand picture here, the skeleton. This is actually my skeleton. So the blue is a little bit of a mobility issue. I got in a car accident there in May of last year, 24, and you can see my right shoulder does not have huge range of motion. So this testing takes about 7 minutes. It's CAMS testing is Kinetisense Advanced Movement Screening. It takes about 7 to 12 minutes. And I use this basically in every session, but it really helps me just dial in like where that person is. Very easy online test to run with the iPad Pro. But I like to do this with all my students when they come in, just so I know like, hey, where are you inefficient? What can your body do? What can't your body do to really help dial in their improvement? But I think data and coaching expertise equals results. That's like the biggest thing I could harp on is you want to know what they do, why they do it. And then your expertise as a coach, whatever your background is, whether you're teaching Jim Hardy, Chris O'Connell, or Stack and Tilt, that's going to give you the result. For the most part, it really does. I'm seeing a lowering handicap anywhere from like 5 to 7 index points using this approach. So this has really been helpful for me. Next step that I do once I assess you, once we do a formal kind of evaluation, then I get you into a package plan. So I run a gold, silver, bronze, junior development, and an online plan. I'm going to admit that I don't really love online golf lessons. I'm kind of old school in that regard. I like to get my hands moving, like to get moving people around to where I need them to go. But I find that the packages, they lead to better results. The biggest thing that I find with a package plan is that most people, they don't really know what they're bad at. So I think like figuring out what they're not so good at. So when I first do my assessment, I'll have them play 3 holes, either on my launch monitor or out on the golf course. This time of year, it's been on the monitor, which stinks, but doesn't stink. It's still good, but I'd like to be outside, preferably. But I think, like, how many times have you given a golf lesson and been like, oh, how's your putting? They're like, oh, it's pretty good. And then you take them to the green and they can't make a 2-footer, like to save themselves. They can't get it within 15 feet on a 30-footer. So it's like, well, you kind of just lied to me, but they don't know what they're bad at. So figuring out what the client is or the person in front of you is not so great at, that's our job as coaches. So the package plan gives me like ample time. I try and stay away from like price gouging and money grabbing because I just want to get the player to reach their fullest potential. I think once they get to that point of like, hey, I'm really playing well and I feel comfortable with everything that we're doing, think that's an important piece for me. So I go with my package plans. And you can all steal this. This isn't, there's no new info here, but I really like the packages. And for each plan, the person or the client will receive a little bit of a discount. So if you go with the gold, you get a little discount. You go with the silver, a little less, and then bronze is a little less than the previous two. But I find that the packages really help just both commitment. It's like a shared commitment between the student and the coach. So I really like that. It's not just about selling lessons. It's about ensuring student success. That's what keeps people coming back in the door. I really try and get away from the one-off session. So that's where I've been probably the last 2 years. And I find, and I've talked to Andy Miller about it, but Andy said that it's kind of working for him as well. So just something to think about. And then I go into like, when you do sign on to a package, you have the option, kind of mandatory option, not really an option, but full day and half day practice sessions. So let's say you're on the gold plan, that's probably for my more serious player. My silver, my bronze are like quick improvement, but the gold will get you there the fastest. So I run a full day session with someone who's doing a gold plan, which is 24 hours of time. So we're automatically going to do a full day session with the gold plan participants and then a half day session with my silver and bronze. So this is just sort of what we kind of run through. I do a CAMS testing to start. I do a club fitting in the first hour. No, they don't need to buy anything. I don't work for TaylorMade. Mike Zuppy's a good buddy, of course, but they don't have to buy anything from me, and I can always like bend their equipment to fit them a little bit. But I want to make sure like their driver's in the right setting, their 3-woods in proper loft, their irons are the correct lie angles and loft angles, and their wedges have the right bounce. And I just give them a whole sheet on here. This is what I think you should be playing. We can tweak the irons a little bit, but I give them the ideas just to get everything moving in the right direction. Ill-fitted golf equipment is something I see so much, especially with like 15 to 20 handicaps. The equipment really matters, maybe more than the touring professional. That's in my opinion, but I really have seen some great things come out of just changing lie angle like 3/4 of a degree, a full degree. It's been pretty amazing to see how someone just goes, okay, wow, the toe's up in the air a little bit more. I feel like I can release it a little bit, and you watch their body move differently. So that's been pretty cool. Next step is going to be build strong relationships. I mean, we're in the relationship business, right? So I think this is a really important one. Connect with students, fellow associates, and club members. I try and do a really good job of this. And it happens where I'll totally blank out on someone's name. It happens a ton. I'm giving 10 to 12 lessons a day. I did about 1,400 lessons last year in 24. So it does happen where I'm like, shit, I just forgot their name. So I think it's important to like write everything down. So I have a spreadsheet of every single client that walks in. Like I said, club face, path, all of that, those metrics. And then I have another one that I do with like family, life. What's their daughter's name? Are they into dance? What do they like to do on their weekends? Do they have a cabin down or a house down the shore? So I really try and keep really good communication in that regard. I also use an online schedule, which I don't have mentioned here, but I'll just throw it in. But I have an online schedule that it gives me like left hand, right hand, member number, a couple different things just so I know who's walking in my door at all times. And it also helps me communicate with the student. So I use a couple different platforms to like show them their swing. The Sportsbox app has been cool, but I think my calendar is called Calendly, and I can actually send like what they call a workflow. So 2 to 5 days after a lesson that I give, I can send them an email like, hey, leave me a Google review, or hey, hope you enjoyed your lesson. If you need anything, please reach out. And there's a good amount where they will reach out and just say, hey, love the lesson. Thanks so much. Left you a review. Or, hey, I'm struggling to get my golf swings up on Coach Now is the app that I use for my coaching platform to keep in communication with their golf swings. So they'll just type something up there, and it's been really helpful. But I think use your communication skills. And I don't have any problem. Like I was a marketing major in college, business admin. And I always thought to myself, like, there's no problem with reaching out. Like, what's the worst? Like, what are you going to annoy someone? I think it's always important just to like reach out. You don't want to hound them like 10 emails a day, but there's no problem with checking in. Like if the person didn't buy a lesson package, I'll just check in and say, hey, hope your game's in good shape and hope to see you again soon. Like just something really nice, really simple. So I would say build strong relationships. That's a really, really important piece for me. That's something that's really, I think it's helped my career to this point. So there's the relationships. We're in the relationship business. So, and the service industry. So service and relationships, super important. Set clear goals. I think this is a really big one that I think sometimes as we get moving throughout the season, we can lose track of those goals. I know that I've done it the last couple of years, and then I have to like stop myself in 2 months in like July and be like, okay, let me reassess where I am. So establish short-term and long-term career goals. And it doesn't really matter what point of your career you're in. I think it's really important just to set it up for yourself. So for me, I have 2 that I wrote down. Finished my PGA work, which has been a pain in the butt a little bit. It's taken me like 2 years so far, but it is like a tedious process to earn the PGA. And basically everyone in here is a Class A member, which is awesome. But I have so much like esteem for the PGA and what the organization stands for that it's like, it gives me goosebumps thinking about like earning that. I won't put PGA on anything, on any logos, because I haven't earned it yet. So you have to earn your stripe. So that for me is my short term. And I have actionable things that I'm working on and dates that I'm going to reach these milestones at. And then the other one is win a national award. So that's my long-term goal. I think like teaching and coaching is important. I think if you spend enough time doing it with the right people and working hard towards that, shouldn't be anything out of the realm of possibility. And then I will always be regularly assessing the progress, and I adjust, right? So after 3 months, 2 months, 6 months, I just check and see where I am and I adjust a little bit. I got bored over the last like 3 weeks, like extremely bored. And I started finishing up writing this golf book. It's basically a play on like Harvey Penick's Little Red Book, but with some modern day biomechanics mixed in, which I think will be pretty cool. But like, if you get bored and you want to dive into something else, like just write some goals down of what you're trying to achieve in that moment. And then this is a huge one for me. My fiance always says that I don't really celebrate achievements. But I'm going to tell you guys to celebrate achievements, no matter how small. I think that's important. Like pat yourself on the back when you're doing something really well. Like after a great lesson, I usually come home and I'm like, dinner tastes a little bit better. Everything that beer tastes a little bit colder. It's just like, it's just nice. It's nice to know that you're doing the right things day in and day out. And it does not matter what age, what point in career you're in, but just keep doing the right things. I think as the PGA, as we advance in more of like modern coaching, I think that's something that they're really going to push. Like, pat yourself on the back, keep yourself moving in the right direction, and celebrate it. So that's cool. This next one, gain diverse experience. This is interesting. I've actually never done a leaderboard. That was fake for some PGA work that I had to do in level 1. Sorry, everyone. But like I think I'm definitely the first person, and John Arthur, who's our director of golf at my club at Radley, has been amazing. But I think when we talked about this the other day, when I told him we were going to do this presentation, but he was like, basically he set up like almost a pod system. So like he knows that I'm a role player, but if I absolutely need to be, so like he knows that I'm not really good with like merchandising. Like I'm not going to go in and like, I don't know how to fold a shirt. Can't do it. Have no idea. I have no idea how to use Blue Golf or Golf Genius. I really am not great with 4Ts at all. Like can't do it. I can send emails on Clubster. Excellent. But just not great with certain things. So I know my role for sure. But I do like to dabble in it. So I will ask questions. Like I'll ask questions to our other professional on staff. I hate the word assistant pro. If anyone knows me, I will not say assistant pro, but our other professional on staff, Michael Wolf, I'll always ask him questions like, how do you populate that from Golf Genius? Like I always find that so impressive. And vice versa. Like when he comes into my studio, he's like, what is this? Like, it's interesting to see someone swing in 3D. What do the numbers mean? XYZ, whatever it is. So I think just gain diverse experience. So I've got no problem running golf carts. If the guys outside are getting a little slow or getting a little busy and I'm a little slow, I have no problem helping, but help with your events, help in the club, and just be a face. Like as instructors, I think we're definitely the face of the club in terms of like, when they walk into the head pro, the people that are your members, they walk in and they might not be too happy with how a tournament was run or what the hot dogs tasted like at the halfway house, or that their drink didn't have enough booze in it, whatever it might be. But they're always thrilled to see their teaching pro or their director of instruction, is a fancy name. But they're always happy to see us, which is cool. So I never get a member that's really like pissed off or angry. You're always dealing with members or people from the public. They sought you out for a golf lesson. I heard Butch say, and I bet many of you have heard Butch say this a lot, but giving a golf lesson is a privilege. And that's really how I look at it. I think that, I mean, they're paying us for our time. My rate's like a little bit on the higher side, I think, for the section. And they're paying me a lot of money to spend time. and they want something for that money, and I'm going to try and give them my very best. There's been days where I wake up and I think I've got 6 lessons today or 8 lessons today or 10 lessons today. And I'm literally thinking to myself, driving the course, I'm going to give the people in front of me the very best that I can give them for my entire day with that person, or my entire time that I'm going to spend. So I'm actively like, I'm just going to run the tables and dominate the day of these golf lessons. From the very first one to the very last one, I'm going to keep the exact same energy, have the same rapport, and just like really bring a good vibe to the lesson tee. I think that this is just a statistic, but like, for people who on packages or people who are taking lessons, I think if it's like you take 5 lessons in the year, you spend about 20% more than your average member at your club, which is a pretty interesting statistic. I took that from Proponent Group. Lauren Anderson does a great job with all those metrics and things. I urge everyone to consider joining, but Proponent Group has been great in just like showing me the value of what we're worth on the club level. I think that's really important. I think it gets overlooked at times from a management standpoint, but like 20% increase in spending, if you're taking 3 to 5 lessons a year, it's pretty impressive. So we hold a lot of value, we hold a lot of weight, but I'd say gain that experience from a diversity standpoint in your club. So don't be afraid to clean a golf cart. Network actively is the next one here. This is big for me. I love to play in all of our section events. This is a super important piece. Like I said, I got hurt last year, so I didn't play a ton of events, which kind of stunk, but I think it's really important. Like, you can meet a lot of amazing people. I have some of my like close friends through the section that I've met just playing section events, going to the networking events, going to the social gatherings. It helps you build your connections, whether it's my relationship with TaylorMade or my relationship with these other companies that I've kind of partnered with, like Foresight Sports. I think it's just important to network, and especially like network around your peers. So that's a really good one. Leverage relationships for career opportunities and collaborations. I'm super happy with where I am in my work. Radley's been amazing to me. It's always nice to like meet other people and just see how it works at their club. As teachers and coaches, it's really fluid, and we don't all have the same deal at our club. So my deal's a little bit different than maybe like Matt Goody's deal at Lancaster, or Nick Iacono's deal at Marion. So like, when you're a full-time teacher, your deal is a little bit different, which is fine. But I think it's always cool just to get a beat on like who's doing what clubs offer what. And then you can bring that back to your club. So the networking is a really important piece. This one has taken me like, I'm pretty shameless in terms of asking this question, but I do it a lot. Can I watch you teach? There's Nick Iacono there on the right working with a student. But like, this is one that's crazy important for me. This is a really powerful one. Can I watch you teach is like, that catches people off guard, but that's also like the biggest compliment to me. Tony Shields has come up a couple times to watch, few other like PGA pros, but that's like, it's neat just to like get that brought to you, get that statement asked to you. Can I just come up there, watch you teach, spend some time? And I've done this a ton, and I've really picked up like, a lot of us are teaching the same stuff. We're teaching it a little bit differently, which is fine. Like, I've never worked with Steve Saraki, but I've worked with Dave Tarashi, and I love how they both I love their communication styles. Like, it's very like the 1 equals the 2 equals the 3, which I love. But I think learning how to communicate with different styles and to different people, I see a million different people from all backgrounds, all walks of life all day. So I think it's really, really cool to just have 25 different arrows in your quiver to be able to convey a message. To convey one message, you might need 12 different ways to get it, and the guy or gal might get it on the 12th one. So you better make sure that you don't stop at 11, try and get to 12 or 15 or 20. That's why I spent so much time with all those different teachers. Great coaches never stop learning. The best way to improve is to watch, listen, and apply. I think that one really holds true. It's just important. That one to me has brought me to where I am, in my opinion. Can I watch you teach? Whether it's Michael Little, whether it's Michael Jacobs, Jeff Costin, Rick Silva, there's a million names, but that's a really good one. It catches people off guard, but it's probably the highest compliment I think you can get as a teacher, if it's not some type of award or recognition. And then feedback and self-reflect. So these are things that I always ask for. So me and John, we have probably meetings every week or so we have a meeting, but every 6 months I look for like a big reflection piece. So I just tell them like, hey, what can I be doing better? What do you need more from me? What can I do basically? So ask your like superiors. I think me and John are peers, but just ask your superiors, people who see you from maybe more of the outside, or what the members are saying and what the guests are saying. Just seek feedback, self-reflect. Feedback, super important. I ask for feedback from students, like, hey, anything we would have done differently today? How'd you feel about after we worked on XYZ? And sometimes it's as simple as like, hey, I really love that, but I really hated that. And then I give them a different explanation on what that was for them that maybe they didn't like so much. I always am reflecting on my teaching practices, and I'm always open to change. So like first year I taught golf, I was working with Dave Tarashi. So I was teaching like primarily stack and tilt pivots. And then next year I started working more with Michael Jacobs and learning like alpha, beta, gamma, XYZ. And then I blended kind of the two together, but it's definitely okay to like blend in a different methods and be open to changing. But I'll never knock anything. Like there's very little that I'll knock in the golf swing. Like I love Jimmy Ballard and I love Matt O'Grady. It's kind of crazy because they're total opposites, but I love them both. Like I love them both equally. And I think as you all can see today, I love what I do. Like I get up every morning. I'm like, I'm excited for this to be over so I can go teach right now at 10:30. But it's like, I just love it. I'm up, ready to go, invigorated with a good sense of like, we're going to make this the best day ever. And then use feedback as a tool for personal and professional growth. Super important here. So you have to be able to like take that, whether it's negative or positive, take that feedback and just apply it to yourself. So there's certain things that I do that I don't love that I do. From a teaching standpoint or from a personality standpoint, I'm like, man, I could just do that a little bit better. So I think having that feedback from the peers or your superiors at your club or club president, if they say something, just listen. Quote by Tiger Woods, don't get bitter, get better. I think that's a super important one. And then before I finish, I know we're running a little early on time, which is good because I want to hear some questions and what other people think. But I wrote this down, but everyone has a story everyone has a story to tell, and just be ready when it's your time to tell your story. So basically, like, I definitely have a story of like just life, where I've been, who I've been around, the experience that I've gotten to go through over my 29 years on this planet, whether it's my 5 years playing professional or my last 5 years teaching. But we all have a story, and just be ready when it's your turn. So keep up, keep working on it, keep grinding through the details, keep trying to figure out what works best for you. Doesn't matter what age you are, find a great mentor, and just work to be great. I think that's the biggest thing for me is I'm working to be great at this game, and hopefully this inspires someone out there watching or listening to work a little bit harder at it, because I think that's what we're all trying to do is push. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Any questions, discussion? My phone's always on as well, so I'm sure that they'll share my digits with everyone. But any questions, comments, concerns, anything we want to talk through?
Nick, can you talk a little bit more about the way you plan some of your social media videos and how you film those and get those out?
I love that. Yeah, I think that's a really important one. So I hired a social media consultant. She comes in. Her name's Drew Milgram. I'll share her contact information with everyone, whoever wants it. But I try to make it really simple. This wasn't really my idea. This came from my fiance. She said, the one thing that we don't do as golf, and this is an outsider, so this isn't me, but she said the one thing she thinks golf professionals don't do a really good job of is marketing themselves. So I just hired it out. I pay her about $1,000, $1,500 a month. She comes in, we spend 4 days a month together, and I've changed outfits. We just do like a mass shoot. I think that's the easiest way to do it, but it's you get really good at it. Like I know some of our older guys were afraid to touch the camera. We're afraid to try and do it. And it's a pain in the butt when we're working. But I think if you just dedicate a little bit of time, I've seen probably 20% of my clients are guests of the club. By no way of me really doing anything. I do the social media videos, but they're coming because they see it on social media. I had a guy the other day signed on to a gold package, which was awesome. But he said, yeah, dude, I just wanted to come and hang out and see if your personality was the same online as what it is in the lesson with you. And I get that sometimes. I heard Martin Chuck say that a couple years ago. He's like, I don't know if any of you guys have been around him, but he's like, yeah, some guys just want to come hang out with Marty. And he's rubbing his hands together. But it's like, that's really how it is. And that's a weird one. That's like a weird feeling because I'm not a celebrity at all by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that what you're putting out on social media is important. But yeah, I have her come in. Her name's Drew, like I said, and she comes in. We spend 4 times a month together, and we just film. We spend 2 hours at a time, and she does all the filming, all the editing. I tell her like what to tag, what I'm doing in the video. So that's like the little bit of a tedious part, but takes really no time when you hire it out that way. I look at it from a time standpoint.
That's great.
Yeah. But I love it. I think I really think as golf pros, and I think the PGA, I love the PGA. I'm a PGA guy, but I just don't think we push that hard enough, especially from associates, especially from like, I know all of you guys are great teachers in here, but I think it would even help the organization more to be like, I know it's a pain in the butt to post that one video and like under 30 seconds, it's hard to get a message across, but even if it's like a piece of what you're teaching, like, hey, my left-hand grip, I like to see 2 knuckles and swing it out to right field and a little release. If that's what you teach, awesome. Like I know Saraki does some good jobs, like actually with lessons, and he's like talking about what he's doing. They don't have to be long. Like 30 seconds is the max for a video. Seconds is the sweet spot. So I think that's just like, make it short, make it quick, make it simple. I tell it to Sheftik all the time. I'm like, it doesn't need to be a 90-minute video about ground reaction forces. It can be a 8-second video of, hey, we worked on this, and show a little drill, and that's it. Edit it together and send it out. Doesn't have to be perfect.
Go for it, Eric.
Nick, appreciate you doing this. I had a follow-up question on the half day and full day stuff.
Yeah.
How many are you doing that for an individual golfer at a time, or are you clumping golfers together and multiple people on a single day or single half day?
I'll do them. I do not clump players together because I feel like that player, they pay for their time with me. So I give them full attention for the 3 hours or the 6 hours. So no, it's a one-on-one individual, but I really like to, and this is something that I had to like fight because you don't want to gas anyone like in the first hour doing a fitting. So I use a lot of the different tools like Ping Copilot. I use that to fit. I use the GC Quad to get lie angle. I don't want them hitting 1 trillion balls in the first day. I take my time with the assessment. So that CAMS from KinetiSense, I'll take my time. So if that's 7 to 10 minutes of testing, I might turn that into 20 to 30 minutes just because I want to make sure all the calibrations are correct. I want to make sure that I get them in the right position, but I'll draw it out just because I think the learning process is improved that way. I don't want to I don't ever want to feel rushed. So we take our time. But yeah, always one player at a time for sure.
Cool. Thanks.
Yep. But then, Eric, that was something that I did fight for a little bit, like, because you don't want to gas anyone. And I don't want, like, if I have a 65-year-old client, I just don't want to be gassed after an hour and a half. And then I'm sitting there like, now we can do nothing. So like sometimes I'll just be like, all right, let's take a second, take a 10-minute break. We'll get some water, maybe grab a snack. So, and I keep snacks in my studio. So I always make sure like the energy's in the right spot. And if I find the energy depleting a little bit, I will cut the time and I'll move the time around. But most of the time, the 6 hour, the full plan is a lot, but that's mostly like really good elite players that are on that package. And the club
makes sense. Yeah.
Go for it, Jen.
I think you're muted, Jen. I think she'll get it.
There should be a button at the bottom. There you go. Where'd you go? Should be a button at the bottom of your screen that looks like a mic.
Little microphone. Those we're waiting on Jen. Anyone else? I mean, I think it's just important to like keep pushing to be better. Like I mentioned Como. I think that's a guy who like he gives away the information because he knows that like we can't teach it the same way he does. We're all individual. So I think that's like that's for me, that's really cool. And like I said, nothing's really proprietary. There's like a handful of people that I know of with really proprietary information. At next month's Teaching and Coaching Summit, Michael Jacobs has some like proprietary stuff that no one else in the world has. But I think ultimately, like, a lot of what we're doing is recycled. A lot of this is club face, club path, low point control. Like, there's really no magic elixir. And if I had it, I would sell it for $1 trillion. But like, really, we're all giving good bits of this really similar information. And that's why for me, I just as a side note, I always hated how like Stack and Tilt would get such a bad rap because they like wrote a book and maybe we're a little aggressive in pushing it. But like, there's some great principles in Stack and Tilt. And I use a lot of that. I use a lot of like pivots and maybe not so much a lot of the lean of like the forward shaft lean with certain clubs. But I use a lot of it. Like I like Andy. I like Mike. I like Dave. I love Steve. It's just like, it's all important to be like open to that. And I'm sure Butch Harmon, who probably has worked with more major champions than anyone on planet Earth, is doing a little bit of the same. I think just blending in a lot of different methods, things he learned from Hogan, things he learned from his pops. So that all that stuff is super important.
Anyone else has a question? Feel free to unmute yourself and jump in.
Quiet group today.
Nick, just with your what you have up on the screen right now with your best teachers in Golf Digest, can you talk a little bit about how those rankings or appearing in those rankings have helped your business?
A ton, yeah. The best young teachers and best teachers in the state. I think it's like a credibility thing, and it's weird. The weird part about the rankings is I'm sure that like the best teacher is at a podunk driving range in Arkansas. Like it's just as simple as that. I don't love the list, but the lists are like an important piece to it. But it's helped my business a ton just because it's a notoriety thing. Like it's a label to put somewhere. I think anyone who has a PGA membership, Class A member, that PGA of America logo is above that, most definitely above that. So I think that's important. But I mean, just getting the different certifications, trying to do your best in terms of your teaching and coaching career. But it's helped me a ton. The Best Young Teachers is a good one. And I was one of the youngest in America on the list at 29. So that was cool. But that helps a ton. Just from like, people know that when they're walking in for a golf lesson, they're not walking into like nothing, just some young kid at Radley Run who doesn't know what he's talking about. And they know that I've been around some different people. So I have to have a good beat on it. If I didn't have a good beat on it, they would have just kicked me out. But I love teaching, love coaching. It's that one to me was really cool because that was one of my goals was the best young teachers. The best teachers in the state wasn't on my goals list. That one just kind of like happened, but the best young teachers was one of my goals. So that one to me is cooler than the best in state.
Nick, do you have students that you only see virtually, or is everyone kind of in person?
Yeah, that's another good one. And I had that written down in here that I hate online lessons. I really can't stand the online lesson. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like there's some coaches that are like more my speed, more like PGA modern coach, I guess you call it. But I can't stand the online lesson. I see maybe 2 people virtually through Coach Now, that they're on like my virtual program, but I need to be able to move those people around. It just bothers me. Like, and I'm sure there's some great results like Jonathan Yarwood, Ryan Hagar at Plainfield. I know those guys do like a lot of virtual online work, but I just can't, it's just not my deal. I really like to move you. Because for me as a player, and this is where I grabbed a lot of my like coaching ideas and feels is like, I would always say like, whether it was Mac O'Grew, whoever it was, I'd say like, can you put me there? Like stage me up so I know where I need to go. I think that's a really important piece is for the coach to be able to stage the client. Sometimes I'll move people into a takeaway or into a backswing and they're like, whoa, that feels like way outside. And then it just feels so crazy then like in and sucked under and kind of pushing their pec to the sky. So I think staging clients is important, but yeah, I don't love the online lesson. I have I think three people on that type of package. But I just haven't seen the results back. Haven't seen the return. That also could be me as well.
Go for it, Tom.
Oh, hi. Good morning, everybody. Nick, great presentation.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Tom.
Really enjoyed it. And all the years I've been at this thing, I've heard a lot, but what you've said to us this morning is very impactful to me. But I thought I'd share a story regarding the importance of being able to assess a swing and club fit. I was a sales rep for the Ben Hogan Company a lot of years ago, and during a sales a demo day at Columbia Country Club with Bill Strasbaugh, a lady came up to me and my point on the range and introduced herself to me, and she said, "Hello, I'm Ruth Ginsburg." And I said, "Oh, good morning, Ms. Ginsburg. Nice to meet you." And he said, "Bill sent me over here to look at the Hogan clubs." And so I watched her. I said, "Well, would you like to hit a couple?" She said, "I'd like to, yes." And I said, "Well, come on up." Well, her swing was totally lacking in any kind of rotation. It was all sway back and forth. And that's all I did. I just said, "Well, try this. Just rotate your hips and make your right hip kind of rotate it back around you rather than go sideways," which she did, and immediately hit the ball better. And I said, "And your clubs need to be custom fitted." So I said, "Well," she says, "can you do that?" I said, "Yes, I can. And I'll make sure that Bill knows what you need." Well, it was Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I had no idea who it was at the time. And so I sent Bill the specs for a set of clubs for her. And 2 weeks later, I get a call back from him. He says, "Go ahead and order them." And I did. And so how about these numbers? $650 later, a whole set of golf clubs, Hogan golf clubs, came to Bill Strasbaugh at Columbia and for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But it just shows the point you made so well is your skills as a teacher, fitter, can have great impact on many other aspects of the game. And I totally agree with your point that you want to try to stay kind of out there and vary your skills in this game, not just, in other words, look in a lot of different directions. And I think it'll be very helpful. One other one, real quick one. My first couple of years as a head golf pro was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the late 60s. So you know how long I've been at this. And I was fortunate to meet Roland Stafford. Now that name may not connect with some people, but I'm sure some of the older guys will remember that. And he mentored me, and this was back in the day. And it was a great thing. We became very good friends, and he turned out to be quite an important teacher, and I learned a lot from him. So again, thanks very much for this day, and it's been very helpful.
My pleasure, Tom. Thank you, man. That's insightful. I appreciate the kind words. This is cool for me. Like I said, I'm the young guy. So to me, it's something where we just never stop learning. And I spent a lot of time with John Kellogg, who's like pro at Radley for 37 years. And it's just one of those things, like he just never stopped learning. We did a PJ Hope conference a couple weeks ago with Nick Iacono, and he was like, he had signed up. We hadn't even talked about it. He signed up, I signed up, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going over to actually can't remember where we were the other day," but he was like, "Yeah, I'm going." And then I'm like, "Oh, I'm going too." Like we didn't even talk about it, which was awesome. But yeah, never stop learning. I think it's important. But the club fitting is a big one for me. It's just an important piece.
Eric, what you got?
Yeah, real quick, I put it in the chat, but in case you didn't see it, wanted to give a shout out to Nick for helping us secure Michael Jacobs as a featured speaker for the Teaching and Coaching Summit coming up on March 6th at Lanark. Look forward to seeing a lot of you there. We've got a great lineup, diverse experiences on a range of topics that I'm pretty excited that you'll get at least a couple things that can help you with your teaching and coaching for the upcoming season. So appreciate it, Nick, for today and for helping us with the lineup.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, Michael's a good friend. And if it wasn't for two Michaels, Michael Little and Michael Jacobs, I probably wouldn't be in front of you guys today. I'd probably be selling insurance or doing something else, to be honest. So those two guys really pushed and educated me just on like the business and the background. But MJ is he's like just a proprietary guy, interesting human being, really, really just awesome. And his information is it's going to push people around a little bit to just think. But I think thinking about it is important. Thinking about how we get someone to move a club is important.
Go for it, Roger.
Yeah, hi. Thank you very much for your presentation. On a typical lesson with all the aids that you have at your disposal, the Hack Motion, TrackMan, video, whatnot, how many do you usually use in a typical lesson? It just depend on the level of the player.
Yeah, so I usually at first lesson, good question, Roger. First question, I'm always assessing. So I'm always running the TrackMan or the GC Quad. I always have the GC Quad on, and then I'm always running the camera, and then I'm usually always running the force plate. I start with the ground, so the first thing I'm checking is the people's feet when they walk in the room, and then I run the force plate. I really don't like Swing Catalyst. I think, and this is just my preference. I talked to Nick Iacono about this, but like they just got Swing Cat at Marion, and I know how to use Swing Catalyst, but I really like. I think it's easier for your average player to focus more on shifting their pressure, not so much like the vertical. You have the three forces, the lateral, the horizontal, and the vertical. But I really, I start with the ground. So I'm running that SAM balance lab just to see how much pressure is moving around and get a pressure trace. I think that's the most basic way to do it. But I'm running three pieces: camera, force plate, and then launch monitor, basically at all times. And then I will turn the TVs on and let the student know what I'm looking at or what we're looking for. So I won't have it after every shot where they can look up. I'll give them a little bit of just ball flight so they can watch that inside. But I will be running those three pieces almost every swing. Especially in the first 10 minutes of the session, because I'm assessing what's going on. Good question.
Okay, we've got 3 minutes left before 10. So if you've got any questions, now's the time. Go for it, Kevin.
Hey, Nick. I want to thank you for your time today. My question is, how do you structure payments, like through outside members?
Yeah.
Well, not members, but outside lessons?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something like Square or something like that?
Yeah, so I'm very lucky. Like the deal that I have at Radley Run, they allow me to run outside guest lessons. I just run it through Stripe. So Stripe is really good. They take a really low fee. It might be like if it's a $200 lesson, it's like $3 or something, or $4. It's like virtually nothing. But yeah, I run all my outside stuff through Stripe. So if someone's buying a bigger package, they run it through Stripe. And even like some club members, just to kind of get it away from husbands or wives, and they're buying a big package and they don't want it to come up on the bill, we might split it up. So I'll do maybe half on club member charge and then half through Stripe, which has been successful and fine for me. So it's been great. But Radley's been awesome for they really let me do my thing, which is all you can ask for, really.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. As a side note as well, everyone, my phone is always on. So if you ever need anything at all, my phone number is riddled all over the internet. So type my name into Google, reach out, and love to spend time with everyone here. We're all in this together. We're all great minds in the business. And I think we've got one of the best sections in the country by far, with a great communications director, an executive director, teaching and coaching committee chairman. And this section really is it's Philadelphia's section and Met's section, I think, are kind of the standard. I don't really know of anywhere else that's playing for the amount of money that we are in the section events and getting to really do what we do every day. So it's pretty awesome. It's an absolute pleasure to be in this section with all of you.
Well, if nobody has any more questions, thank you very much for your time, Nick. It was good and a very good discussion. And just as a reminder, this presentation will be up on YouTube later this week.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Thank you, Eric. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Nick.
Yep,
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
absolutely.